Did you know? The Millennium Falcon had a major design change partway into production. The original design had a strong resemblance to a ship from the then-recent 1975 British TV show Space 1999. In light of this, the Millennium Falcon was drastically altered, and only a few original parts such as the satellite dish and the cockpit were left intact. Some parts of the original model were recycled, altered, and repurposed as the blockade runner at the beginning of the film. Other ships have interesting origins. George Lucas's design notes for the TIE Fighter describe the design as a finned sausage, and refer to a cover for the book The Stainless Steel Rat as inspiration. When writing Star Wars, Lucas was inspired by the 1958 Akira Kurosawa film The Hidden Fortress. Lucas said that the one thing that really struck me about Hidden Fortress, and I was really intrigued by, was the fact that the story was told from the two lowest characters. I decided that would be a nice way to tell the Star Wars story. Here, Lucas was comparing the two peasants in the Hidden Fortress to the two droids in Star Wars. In both movies, a duo argues, gets separated, and then eventually reunite after being captured. Lucas and producer Gary Kurtz at one point considered buying the rights to the Hidden Fortress because of how similar it was to the original Star Wars screenplay. Even the name Obi-Wan Kenobi has a Japanese sound to it. The renowned actor Toshiro Mifune, who starred as the general in the Hidden Fortress, was Lucas's first choice for Obi-Wan, but he turned down the role. According to Mifune's daughter, the Darth Vader helmet was designed as a kabuto for her father to wear and that his face would be visible, but he turned down that role as well. Star Wars was influenced by other movies, including the 1927 film Metropolis, which influenced C-3PO's design. Lucas also turned to the 1940 film serial Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe for the opening crawl and general plot elements. The 1935 Nazi propaganda film Triumph of the Will was used as a reference for the throne room celebration, and parts from a scrapped World War II British fighter jet engine were used as a beverage machine. This same prop was later used for IG-88, a droid bounty hunter that made a minor appearance in The Empire Strikes Back. In an early rough draft of Return of the Jedi's script, Luke confronts Vader while surrounded by molten lava, and the two hopped from one rock to another while fighting. This idea was eventually used over 2 decades later for Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight in Revenge of the Sith. Also, for Return of the Jedi, storyboards show Vader gaining control of Luke's lightsaber in the middle of their battle, and dual-wielding it along with his own. This idea was again scrapped, but remnants of it can still be seen in the final film as a continuity error. Vader holds Luke's unignited saber in his left hand, and in the next shot, it's back in Luke's. The concept of dual-wielding lightsabers was later used by Anakin in the prequels. Until the final draft of A New Hope, Obi-Wan was planned to survive his encounter with Darth Vader. However, Lucas realized that Obi-Wan didn't have any importance to the story after escaping the Death Star, so he decided to kill him off to make the Empire feel like a real threat. Later in Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan was planned to come back in the flesh and assist Luke in defeating Darth Vader, but this was dropped in later drafts. Harrison Ford also felt that Han Solo's story was over and that he should be killed in Return of the Jedi, but Lucas rejected this premise. Producer Gary Kurtz was concerned with Lucas's plans for Return of the Jedi, particularly about it being too lighthearted and featuring yet another Death Star battle. Lucas also had concerns about Kurtz, and blamed him for letting The Empire Strikes Back go over budget. As a result, Kurtz ended his involvement with the Star Wars franchise, and was replaced by Howard Kazanjian for Return of the Jedi. After the movie's release, instead of jumping right into creating the prequels, Lucas instead eased up from Star Wars to raise his family. But when he saw Jurassic Park in 1993, the advancement in special effects convinced Lucas that it was now possible to create what he had in mind on the big screen. In order to prepare the Star Wars audience for the prequels, Lucas wanted to digitally enhance the original films using the new computer effects. He spent $10 million on updating A New Hope, which was nearly the same amount of money needed to make the movie in the first place, and Lucas spent $5 million total on revising the other 2 Star Wars movies. A New Hope Special Edition released January 1997 and was the highest-grossing PG movie that year. The other 2 movies released February and March. The special editions featured a few dialogue changes, some entirely new shots, and most notably, computer-generated models in place of existing creatures, technology that would be heavily utilized in the prequel trilogy. By the time Lucas began filming Episode 1 in 1997, he hadn't directed a movie since A New Hope 20 years earlier. While filming the prequels, the actors found it difficult to perform on a blue screen, as they had to imagine what would be added in post-production, especially with Lucas's undescriptive direction of what they should be reacting to. Ewan McGregor, who played the young Obi-Wan Kenobi, said, "It was a hard film to make because so much of it's not there, and the pretending is so much of it." Samuel L. Jackson, who plays Mace Windu, recalls, "There was also a guy with a duck on his head, I don't know what that was," in which he was likely referring to Ahmed Best wearing the Jar Jar costume, before they decided to completely replace it with CGI. best recalled that Michael Jackson wanted to play the part of Jar Jar Binks, where he would wear prosthetics and makeup, similar to the Thriller music video, but Lucas wanted Jar Jar's face to be all CGI since the beginning of the project. Although the prequels are notorious for the excessive use of CGI, models and practical effects were still commonly used. And in fact, there's more of it in The Phantom Menace than the entire original trilogy. There were over 50 model makers working at Industrial Light and Magic, including Adam Savage, Jamie Hyneman, Tori Belleci, and Grant Imahara before they became the Mythbusters. The pod race arena was a model filled with hundreds of painted Q-tips blown by fans to make it look like a living audience. Pod racing may have been inspired by Lucas's teenage years of racing cars at fairgrounds, as well as the chariot race from the 1959 film Ben-Hur, which was used as a visual reference. There's also a deleted scene where Anakin gets into a fight because Greedo accused him of cheating in the pod race, which ends with Greedo being told, "Keep this up, Greedo, and you're gonna come to a bad end." For Darth Maul, Lucas asked concept designer Ian McCaig to draw a figure from his worst nightmare. McCaig came up with a creature with metal teeth and red ribbons coming out of its head. When Lucas saw the drawing, he quickly turned it away and said, "Okay, now draw me your second worst nightmare." McCaig then took influence from circuit boards, Rorschach patterns, and face painting from African tribes. His design even included feathers on Maul's head, but other crew members mistook it for horns, and that interpretation stuck for the final design. Did you also know that EA negatively affected the development of Star Wars games before they even had the license to the franchise? For more Star Wars facts, check out the Did You Know Gaming video on how EA ruined Star Wars games. And while you may have already seen these 2 Dub of Dracula videos, stay tuned, there's a third one on the way.